I was born in a Christian home. Um, I I didn't know the Lord, but I heard I went to a Bible-believing church and heard about Jesus Christ and that He died for me, died for my sins, and He rose again from the dead. Um, as a young child, I heard about hell, and I didn't want to go to hell. I remember uh, my father, because I didn't want to go to hell, I went to my father and said, um, I, I want to accept Jesus Christ as my Savior and pray and invite Jesus Christ in. So I prayed, but nothing really. I was a child, and nothing really changed in my life. And but I did feel like a peace after praying that. But I went on in my life. In 8th grade, I remember I thought to myself, if only I was popular, then my life would be good. And I thought that, and I started hanging around. I tried to get into the popular group, and I I I would say things, bad things, and do things so that they could accept me and stuff like that. And eventually, an embarrassing situation happened, and I remember crying, and I remember thinking to myself, I guess I'll just turn to God. And then during high school, I started reading my Bible. I remember reading my Bible and kind of thinking to myself, um, I like this. I don't want this to mean this. If it says what I think it's saying, then I don't want it to mean this, because it was definitely It was definitely speaking to me about. Um, it was just it was yeah. And but I went to college. I doubted my salvation, doubted if I was truly saved, and eventually I came. I went to Word of Life Bible Institute, and I heard about Jesus there, and I was involved with ministry, but that I still feel like, at least at that point, maybe I wasn't saved yet. I eventually I started attending Northeastern Baptist College, and I during that time in my life, I was listening to the Bible a lot on my I listened to the audio Bible, and I remember one time I was listening to a sermon about being born again, and it was like God's Spirit hovered over me, and I felt God breathing in me as I was listening to the sermon, and it was like God. It was like at that moment, I think possibly that something happened, and I went outside. I started telling people. I went to these two people in front of Dollar General and started talking to them about that. I told them, there's nothing you could do to be saved. There's nothing you could do, and but they turned around and went back in. The sermon I was listening to was about being born again. How there is nothing we could do, like no works we could do, or anything we could do to save ourselves, and that we have to be born again. That God has to do that work in us, and that really that was a change. Changed my life, you know. But I still struggle, and I struggle with certain sins, and God's still helping me overcome them. I you know, I'm not the man I used to be, but God's making me into, what He wants me to be.
So there was a time where you were doing religious-like things, but
yeah.
maybe it wasn't the real deal?
Yes, I think so.
There came a point when you really had to get serious
Yes.
about who you are as
Yes.
a sinner and who God is as a holy God?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.